Ladies and gentlemen, independent Americans around the country and around the world, summer is coming and things are heating up, but in Washington, they never cool down. And our guest has been in the middle of all of it for the last few years. He's a man I've known for many years now, and is definitely a man of the moment. He's an inspiring leader. He is really in an intense spot, I think, in terms of his leadership right now and all the things he's taken on. So he's making time for us right now. And I'm very humbled and grateful to have joining us today the great and powerful Congressman Ruben Gallego. Welcome to Independent Americans, my friend.
Thank you for having me.
You know, I was, first of all, thanks for doing this. I know you got a lot going on, and there's a lot I want to get into. You know, the insurrection, the burn pit hearing that you had today, you know, your leadership as a veteran, and your maybe a new kind of asymmetrical warfare, your ongoing battles with Marjorie Taylor Greene. And I know you got to pick up your kid at some point soon, so we're going to try to get through a lot in a short period of time. But thank you for joining us. We were trying to figure out, when did we first meet? It might have been when you were in local government, right?
I think it might have been before local government. I think we were lobbying for the GI Bill on Capitol Hill, the new GI Bill, which is back around 2006 or 2007. So I didn't get elected to local government until like 2010.
Yeah, I mean, it's been a long journey, and it's been really exciting to see your rise. And I think you've risen to this moment, but also reflecting on, you know, we're getting kind of old. But you're only, what, 41, 42, you know, a younger
41, yeah, going on 41. Feels like 60, but yeah, 41.
Yeah. And
got the knees of a 70-year-old, though.
It's like, I'm sure that a year in Congress is like a year in combat, right? It wears you out.
Never. It's not that hard.
Well, let's get into it. And I want to start by asking you the question I ask everybody. It's been a rough year for a lot of people in this country. Congressman, where are you and how are you?
Look, I'm good. I mean, right now I'm in Phoenix, Arizona, spending time with my family, you know, trying to do a good work-life balance. It was a rough January, and March seemed to be the longest longest month of the year. You know, I was very disappointed, obviously, what happened on January 6th, but I continue to have just the same fighting spirit. You know, I can't let things get me down, and I always got to remember, like, you know, a bad day in the office is way better than any day in Iraq, and I'll take it.
I think that perspective has been especially important in the last couple of months, when you hear members of Congress, you know, frankly, whining about living conditions and other challenges while we've got friends still in Afghanistan and around the world. Let me ask you, you've been, you know, a really inspiring story. You went to Harvard, and then you went in the Marine Corps as a corporal, as an enlisted guy. But I know you know, early days were in Chicago. A question I ask of all of our guests, when you were growing up, what was your first car?
First car was I think it's a 1989 Pontiac Grand Am, blue. Yeah, it was ugly as shit, but it got me from point A to point B, you know, especially with the cold weather. Yeah.
What kind of blue was it?
It was like a metallic blue. It was really trashy.
Yeah, that's like that's an iconically trashy type vehicle, right?
Yeah.
All right, another question we ask of all of our guests, and I got dressed up, by the way, for you here. So I got a jacket on. I haven't worn a jacket in a while because I'm talking to a member of Congress, even though it's one I've known for a long time, but I have a lot of respect for you. But, you know, you're a normal human being too. All of us need to step away, and we've asked everybody on this show, Congressman, what is your drink of choice? If you're going to have an adult beverage, you know, outside of Congress or outside of the military, what is your drink of choice?
My go-to is Basil Hayden on a Big Rock, and I partake of that every night almost, and of course a good cigar.
I knew you wouldn't disappoint, right? Like
it's actually good value bourbon. I mean, you know, you could go more expensive, but I don't make that much.
That's exactly right. So, you know, I think it's been inspiring to see your leadership in many different ways. But I want to talk about the insurrection because I think your role was so critical and so illuminating for so many people. You've talked about it a lot. You were inside the Capitol. helping people put gas masks on. You're trained as a Marine infantry man. And you've talked a lot about the insurrection. I just got finished doing an interview on MSNBC where some folks seem to have forgotten, some of your colleagues have forgotten. Now that we're 5 months away, Congressman, what do you want people to remember about your experience that day?
Well, I'm not sure people have to remember my experience. I think people have to remember what they felt that day. And talking to people around the world, they were traumatized, both here and people from across the world, that this was happening in the United States, that there was an actual coup attempt. There were people that were trying to break in to the House of Representatives and the Senate to try to grab hostage of government, try to stop the peaceful transition of government. You could see even how Donald Trump acts now. He feels like it should have happened, right? And the fact that Republicans are trying to, basically cover it up, it's not because they weren't scared. Trust me, I saw the Republicans, they were scared. I saw one guy tear apart like a freaking hand sanitizer stand trying to make it a club because he was afraid of the own insurrectionists. Saddest part is that he came back and then also voted again to decertify the election. So the reason they're trying to to keyhole this is because they know that the American public was disgusted by it, and if they are reminded that this was caused by the irresponsible and, in my opinion, illegal actions of the president and other Republicans, that they're going to be held in consequence during the election cycle. But it was. Yeah, good.
Can I ask you? Jason Crow was a ranger. Yeah. I think he was helping people hide under chairs. Do you feel like I remember when it happened, I turned to my wife and I said, "They got in, yeah. Like they broke the seal." And as a military planner, I know what that means, right? Like they breached the wire, right? Do you think that you and other combat veterans have a different perspective on this because you know how bad it could have gotten?
Well, certainly. I mean, I did not a lot, but I did enough riot control training in the Marine Corps. And, dealing with, crowds is very scary. Just because a mob may not have active weapons on them, the mob is the weapon. And, when people get together like that and they start moving and they get all their, emotions up, fed by a big ass lie, they could be very dangerous against, any target. And, I saw the danger. The other problem that I saw the danger was, honestly, my friends and members of Congress, a lot of them weren't going to be in the shape to fight. They're older, some of them aren't in the best health. Some of them just weren't even in the mental mindset that they may have to fight. I had to talk to a couple of members, like, we may have to fight our way out of this, because at that point on the House floor, there's only 2 or 3 cops. And what I saw trying to break through the door was not going to be able to stop by those just two police officers. So it was real. It was a real situation. If you were there and you were scared, you had a real reason to be scared, because my spidey sense said something was about to go down, and then sure as shit, it went down.
So now, you've been leading the calls to demand accountability. This is a show that welcomes people of all political backgrounds. A lot of folks are leaving the Republican Party now. Many of them are going to Democratic Party. Many of them are becoming independents. And I've said that I think the biggest and fastest growing party in this country may be no party at all. And it's in part because of leaders like Trump, but also Marjorie Taylor Greene. I mean, you're into it with her, right? You're not holding back. She's throwing punches. You're throwing punches. You're on Twitter scrapping it up with her. She called you a coward. Right. Yeah. You're a combat Marine Corps vet, beyond politics. For her to call you a coward is pretty out of bounds. But what's your strategy here? Right. Because some might say, don't feed the trolls. She's a troll, don't feed her. You're elevating her. You're giving her a target. You're sticking your head up. If you're a Marine, don't give them something to shoot at. Right. But talk to us about what your political strategy is here. What do you want to achieve by getting down in the mess with somebody like Marjorie Taylor Greene, that I view as an enemy of the state, a traitor, someone who's been endorsed by QAnon? But talk to us through what you're thinking.
Well, first of all, I'm not engaging with her anymore. I did my hit and run, and I have other things to do. Like, while she was messing around on Twitter yesterday, I passed 2 bills out of committee, and I'm the chairman of the Intelligence and Special Operations Subcommittee, and I chaired a hearing on countering WMDs, right? So I don't got time to mess with stupid people, right? So she could do what she wants on Twitter. The thing that I don't want to leave unchecked is when members of Congress go on Twitter and basically say that Democrats are the enemy of the state, that we are the enemy within, right? And I'm not going to let that stand, especially when she was one of the largest advocates for the insurrection. She was one of the first people that ran the hell out of the floors of the House of Representatives when the insurrectionists came, right? So while you shouldn't get down with, never fight people with lower IQ, because you're going to end up with a lower IQ also. I'm also not going to let them call me and my fellow Democrats, the unpatriotic, and certainly not from an insurrectionist like herself and the QAnon loving person that she is, right? That's some bullshit, and I'm not going to stand for it, right? So my strategy is that you just need to fight back, and Democrats need to have a fighting spirit. And yes, we should elevate ourselves and have, go to the next level sometimes, but sometimes you just got to go down there and get into the muck with them, because you need to be fighting for the right reasons. And when someone says something really stupid, you just need to hit back, right? So I made my counter post. She hit me back. She's not really good in terms of her arguments, and I think I pretty much burned her as much as I could. And now I walk away, and I'll keep continuing doing my job, and she could continue, talking to whatever conspiracy theory people that she wants to.
I just finished, like I said,
and it just feels good, man. Sometimes when people are just stupid, you just got to smack the stupid out of them rhetorically.
Well, let me ask you to take that a step further, right? Because I've been in the national discussion, you have as well, about how do we fight extremism? How do we fight the enemy that is extremism? How do we? And now, another story came out today. A fourth reservist was part of the insurrection. We know, so far they're not disproportionate relative to the population, but they're significant. Right. So, in your view, obviously, you've talked about accountability for members of Congress, but how do we stop our buddies? Guys that we were in the Army or the Marine Corps with, that are on, and gals that are on our Facebook page, that we know that might go over to the dark side. How do you think we fight extremism, not just in Congress, but on the ground in Arizona and Texas and Florida and across the country?
Well, look, the problem, you got to start, the way you fight misinformation is before it really takes off, right? And sometimes that can be really, really difficult. So if you have your buddies, and I have my Marine Corps friend list, right? And I'm their token Democrat. There's a couple other ones, obviously, from my unit. But whenever I see something, I really do try to just interject with facts, right? And they'll get pissed at me and they'll fight me back on it just for bringing up facts. But I just kind of keep pushing it, and hopefully, eventually that'll push them to actually go do their own independent research. And sometimes they already come in with a certain level of prejudice where they want to see something bad as it is. And the best thing you could do is just try to point to the good things or the lighter parts of a conversation. My friends want to hate Biden, right? It's like in their core to hate Biden. And for example, there was some meme going around about that we're giving more to illegals than we are for veterans homelessness. And then I went and pointed out, like, by the way, we're actually putting billions of dollars into veterans homelessness with a CARES package. And, these Republicans that you guys support rejected it, and they lost their minds that I even suggested that. When I proved it was real, then, they were very quiet. Now, did I change their minds? No. But what I'm hoping that it does is that it'll make them think twice about posting things without actually doing some background and research to it.
You've been a great voice on understanding the costs and consequences of combat. You are now, it's come full circle, right? Now you're cross-examining, leaders of the Pentagon and decision makers when you were once, a lowly corporal in the Marine Corps. You've been outspoken on Afghanistan. We now know Afghanistan's coming to an end. I think you've talked a lot about that, but I want to give you a chance to talk about something that I know is very important to us, to me, you, and many who've been there and in Iraq and other places, which is not abandoning our allies. Right. And the need for protecting the people who protected us. I think Biden has bungled this. Like, it didn't seem like he made it a priority, and now he's walking back the numbers. Can you break it down? What do you think the president should be doing? What should America be doing and as we leave, in a couple of months?
Well, certainly we need to make sure that all the interpreters and government workers that are Afghan or mostly Afghan, that we give them and their family visas as soon as possible to come to the United States, right? I know there's a process, everything else like that, but leaving them in Afghanistan once we leave is just horrific, right? It's disgraceful. So it will be a stain on our soul if we do that. So the way we counteract that And in my opinion is, if we have to do this and it's going to be a problem, like there's plenty of bases all around the world that we could fly some of these families to in the meantime until they finish their process, right? We could, put them in host countries that'll help us out in the meantime. Obviously, we'll have to negotiate that, but we can't just let bureaucracy be the excuse, right? We just can't let that say like, well, we really want them here, but because it's a review process and this and that, we're going to let potentially thousands of people die. We can't do that. That's just not the way we are. That's not what we're supposed to do as a country. We know in Iraq that ISIS, as soon as they came into certain towns in Al Anbar, where I operated, they had lists of the men and women that had helped us while we were there, and they were the first ones that were dragged out and shot. Right? That's what the Taliban potentially can do in Afghanistan. Hopefully, it doesn't happen. But we need to give these people that opportunity to leave the country if they want, because that's a promise we made to them in the first place. And if we don't fulfill our promises, we may not get that help next time around. We find ourselves in another situation where we need local indigenous help.
Yeah, right. And all the other countries around the world where men and women are in uniform right now, and depending on locals, they're looking at left and right and saying, hey, they didn't help the Afghans. They're not going to help me either. Right. Why should I step up? So, the Guam option, right? Or wherever it is, you send them somewhere in the meantime where they can get vetted until they get processed in, but at least they're out of the line of fire. You've also been helpful, and I think really a leader on understanding another consequence of that war and many others, which is burn pits. This week you led a hearing to finally get burn pits on the radar. It took us really decades. I feel like we started talking about burn pits when we were talking about the GI Bill. And for years, we've been saying this is our Agent Orange. Jon Stewart has been like fuel injection again. And it's many of the same folks who fought for 9/11 first responders, healthcare. This was a big week, I think, in terms of the national consciousness, right? Are we going to get this done? And are we going to get presumption done? Right? Like that's the big key here is like, are you going to give a presumption or make people fight the system for many, many years? And also, where's Biden? Like I've been a supporter of the president on many of these issues. He said that he thinks Bo may have gotten cancer from a burn pit, but he's been notably silent. I mean, I'm disappointed with him. What are your thoughts on those couple of questions?
Well, just to make sure I didn't lead a hearing, I got to give credit to Mark Takano for that. He is the one that really has been leading this all together. And then it was Lisa Slock and Congressman Raul Ruiz that introduced another language. The language that actually mattered to get this done. So, the reason I care about it, obviously, it's because there's so many of my friends that were affected by it. I'm pretty sure I will be affected by it someday. I was exposed to a burn pit forever. It feels like forever, but it was a couple months. Yeah. But it is our Agent Orange. I can't speak to where the president is on this. He's got a lot of other things happening. I do think that VA Administrator McDonough, thank you, is really trying to do his best. But I think we have to have presumption. The reason people aren't going through is because we just cannot get enough claims authenticated. So we have to have presumption because the people that are doing this are just not doing it.
Look, I hope the president will meet with you. I hope he'll meet with other veterans, because it's a big difference when a member of Congress is sitting across from you demanding that people get taken care of. That includes them, right? Like your lungs may be torched, my lungs may be torched, and we don't want to have to fight for decades. Like we don't even,
and then just the things that are happening to female veterans too are just barely understood too, which is 20% of our population.
So another breaking point, national security defense, seemed to happen this last couple of weeks. Joni Ernst and others have now finally gotten on board with Gillibrand and the Military Justice Improvement Act to take military sexual assault out of the chain of command. Now General Milley is there. Do you feel like a dam is broken and this is finally going to happen?
Yeah, and I think it is, just because I think General Milley is actually following what he thinks is going to happen among the voters themselves, among the members of Congress themselves. Look, there hasn't been any change. Nothing's happened in terms of actually getting this done. The internal mechanisms to really keep this good order has not happened. So now we have to take this out, put it back in the civilian, or else we're just not going to have women joining the military, and they need them as part of our full population.
I know I got to let you go. You got a lot happening right now. Let me ask you something. I'm an independent. There are a lot of folks in your party that are very disappointed with Senator Sinema right now. Your state very proudly put forward a decorated combat veteran. Would you ever challenge her, for the Senate, in an upcoming race to give people an alternative?
No, look, I believe in Senator Sinema. I've known her since, we both were young people in politics. She knows how to win in Arizona, and I think she also knows how to deliver. So, everyone have faith in her. I think she's going to do the right thing, and she's going to get things done, in her way, and she will deliver for Arizona. She will deliver for working class people.
Look, I know you got to go, so I want to thank you.
I got to pick up the little kiddo.
I know you got to pick up your son. I want to thank you for your leadership. I want to thank you for your continued service. I want to thank you for fighting the good fight, for making time for me. I'm going to send you some gifts. You got some Independent Americans gear coming your way.
Awesome.
Okay. I'm going to send you some Uncle Nearest whiskey, which
that's cool. That's really good.
You will enjoy. And the last gift, that's also a question. Easter just passed. Mother's Day is coming up. There are 3 colors of Peeps before me, Congressman.
Yellow.
Pink, yellow, and blue. Which color would you pick and why?
Yellow, always. Just
Why
because that's
yellow?
what I remember growing up with.
Well, it's been exciting to watch you grow up politically, to see you go from an advocate on Capitol Hill to now leading the national discussion on the most important issues of our time. I'm honored to know you. I appreciate you. We don't always agree on things politically, but
You don't have to. That's the other thing. We just got to get back to that point where Democrats, Republicans, Independents can just agree to disagree. And you don't have to, and it doesn't mean that we're all a bunch of unpatriotic people, right? I have a lot of Republican friends. It's fine. Like just as long as we don't say the other person somehow wants to destroy America. Yeah,
that's right. And we all,
unless you're actually seditionist, then yes, at that point you are.
Which is serious, right? We
that is different.
Like lock them up and deal with it. I mean, it's as serious as a heart attack right now. But we all agree it's important to go pick up our kids after school. You're a great role model. So thank you for your leadership and thank you for joining us.
Please have me back on.
Thank you. Stay vigilant, my friend.
Bye-bye.